Welcome everyone to the Tulsa.net user group. Tonight, Michael Perry works as a director of consulting at Improving, longtime friend of mine, and a magical guy with software. And so I'm excited to see about building your own software factory. Michael, please take it from here.
Thank you so much, Sean. Glad to be here. Yeah, I am really excited about this topic because I find that this is the way for us to move forward within our industry. A lot of a lot of things are changing. This, I believe, is how we get from where we were last year to where we are going, so that we can serve the needs of all of our clients. So you might notice there in the subtext, how to build, how software engineering teams can move beyond agentic or beyond generic AI output by engineering their own customized development systems deliberately, iteratively, and in production. And I made sure to leave the M dash in so that you knew without a doubt who wrote that line. But it was good. I like it too. Let's talk about Improving, first of all. So yeah, I'm a director of consulting at Improving, been with Improving for about 14 years. And if you are in the Dallas area, or even if you're in Houston or in Austin, we've even got an opening in Raleigh, North Carolina right now. We would definitely love for you to help us out. We are are leading new teams in AI assisted development. And so we are looking for people who are really diving in and practicing that skill so that they can help improving and help improving clients. So why do we need this software factory thing in the first place? If you take a look at the OpenAI Academy, you'll see advice like this. The more detail you give, this is about prompt engineering. The more detail you give, the better the response. But focus on what really matters. Too much extra information can sometimes make the answers less helpful. So that's great advice. But what do I do? Do I keep on typing in that prompt window? Do I just write paragraphs and paragraphs and paragraphs? How do I get the best response out of an AI tool? And when we first started this, it was prompt engineering. That's really what this is talking about. Then we started really talking about context engineering. And now I think we are moving on to the next phase, what I call factory engineering. But let's start here. Why is this such hard advice to follow? So your AI, when you just walk up to it and you give it a prompt, it's going to produce the average just based on what it was trained. So you say, make me a flight simulator. Then it's going to generate something. It'll, might represent a flight simulator. It might have a blocky airplane that, that moves around with your keyboard or your mouse. Or it might create a two-dimensional game where you can just drag the plane around. You don't know what it's going to produce, but it's going to produce something based on what you gave it. And the thing that it produces, it's probably not going to be wrong these days. These days, it usually produces something that's right, but it's just not what you would have done. It's not really yours. So the idea is not to wait for a better model. The idea is to put your opinions into the framework so that it can that constrains the model to produce what you would do. So think about it this way. Every time you write a prompt, you're drawing a target. And then the LLM is going to produce a response. It's going to just throw a dart, and it's going to hit somewhere in that target. The days of completely missing the target, I think, are pretty much behind us. If you're using one of these foundational models, these frontier models, they're pretty much going to hit the target every time. But if you write a short prompt, you've drawn a big target, and so you don't really know where it's going to land. And so what do? Do you draw a smaller target? Drawing a smaller target means writing a bigger prompt. And that that's that's not quite the way you want to go. Instead, you want to draw several targets all at once. And now the LLM is going to hit somewhere in the intersection. So you can write some relatively medium-sized prompts for your business requirements, for your architectural constraints, for your team norms, and those are different dimensions of quality of the solution that you want. And so if you encode those things in different artifacts and then give them to the LLM all at once, it's going to hit somewhere in the intersection. And so that's what we're going to build tonight. We're going to see how we can subdivide our opinions and put them into the right place so that we can get the LLM to hit somewhere in that intersection. So the way we're going to do that is we're going to build a software factory. So you might have heard about some spec-driven development templates. So one of the early ones was GitHub's spec kit, and then there was OpenSpec, and there was this huge one called BMAD. There've been a few others that I've heard about. I just heard about a new one earlier today. There's one called GSD. I won't tell you what the GSD stands for because we're being recorded, but these are kind of all over the place. So you can take one of these templates and install them, and then that kind of imposes the author's opinion on the LLM, and it starts to behave in a certain way. And so they're usually created in order to get the system to behave like a UX designer, and then behave like an architect, and then behave like a developer, and then create different specifications for each of those layers. So great practice. And when it came out, when GitHub Spec Kit first came out, I had already kind of discovered something like this. I had a couple of prompts that I would use all the time to say, write a spec. And then I would read the spec and say, no, not like that. No, not like that. Okay, that looks right. And then I have another prompt, just /implement at spec. Boom. All right, go. And kind of got those prompts working the way I wanted them. Just 2 prompts. And then I saw this and I was like, oh, spec-driven development. That's a name for what I've been doing. But you don't have to use a template. In fact, a software factory is not something that you can download and install. A software factory is something that you have to build yourself. So a factory can be divided into a set of artifacts and a set of factory components. So the artifacts are things like user journeys, product requirements, documents, user stories, the specifications, the designs. These are about the thing you're trying to build. And then the factory components, these are the things that encode your norms, your opinions, your team's processes and patterns, your technology choices. So these are about how you build. And now you can take the what you're going to build and the how you want to build it, and you can combine them, and those are overlapping, intersecting targets that is going to hit that sweet spot right in the middle. So your responsibility has changed. Prior to 2026, your responsibility was to ship the product. Now your responsibility has shifted to maintaining the factory. So it's your responsibility to come up with exactly that set of artifacts and components that will build the product. And that is now our output. This reminds me of a time, actually not too long ago, if you think about it, the human computers of NASA. So you may have seen the movie Hidden Figures that was really all about this time. Um, these these primarily women at NASA were responsible for performing the calculations that put people in space, and um, and so their job was to compute. And then a machine came along and threatened their job. So we started to see the introduction of digital computers to solving these kinds of problems. And they could see the writing on the wall. They knew that if they didn't do something, then their jobs would be lost to the machines. And so they did something. Dorothy Vaughan snuck into a public library in order to steal a Fortran book because it was not available to her for reasons that are discussed in the movie. And um, she taught herself Fortran, and then she taught the rest of her team. And because of that, the the human computers became the first generation of computer programmers. So they took this threat that was going to take away their jobs, and they said, "Okay, I see this coming. Who better? Who knows these calculations better than we do? Who better to become the computer programmers that will program the machines to do the calculations?" So this is the moment. This is your opportunity. It's your responsibility to take this moment to invest your time, yes, invest your treasure, and learn how to program these new machines. So that means that if your company isn't letting you use AI on the job, use AI at home. Spend your own time on it. If your company is not paying for a Windsurf subscription, you go home and you put down that $20 a month and you get that tool for yourself. You're not going to be satisfied with the free tier. That's going to run out of steam really fast, and you're not going to have access to the best models. And so with just the free tier, you'll think that this is just a fad and this stuff doesn't work. If you just put that $20 a month down, you will find that this stuff is real. This stuff works. And that's enough for you to learn how to use it. So invest your time, invest your treasure, and define the future for yourself. So now let's actually talk about the components of the software factory. It starts with skills. So you might have heard of Anthropic, the standard of agent skills that they defined. I looked it up. It was actually in November of 25, and so this was just hot off the presses at about the same time that a brand new version of Opus landed, and so this really allowed you to encode the specific things that you wanted the LLM to bring into memory, bring into context, as a set of really small markdown files. So I like to use skills in order to capture details about my technology stack, details about my opinions that are different from the standard, the average on which it was trained. So encode those in a skill, and then it will be able to load them in and act upon them. So let me go ahead and bring up Cursor, and we will see how how the agent is able to work without a skill, and then we'll see how it works with a skill. And if anybody's got a comment or question, then go ahead and come off mute and just shout it out. While I find my way to the thing that I want to demonstrate.
Just gonna say that the analogy with computers from like the 50s
That's very appropriate.
Yeah, yeah. I was yeah, having a conversation with with somebody trying to convince them that they really do need to invest in themselves, and it's like, oh, this has happened before. This is yeah. Okay. Yeah. So what we have here is a project that you can see. It's got an API. It's got a web. Uh, yeah. This so far doesn't have the web components, but it's got some tests. We're going to talk about data warehouse in a little bit, but this is an application that you could use. There we go, to manage events. So you've got an act that's going to perform at a venue at some point in the future. You put that in here. And so here we've got a set of user stories. So here's our user story for venue management. So let me just switch that to preview mode. Yeah, I love it that Cursor added this preview markdown toggle switch here. So this is talking about what you could do to manage a venue or a set of venues as a venue manager. And we've got it broken down into different acceptance criteria um, and kind of the high level features. So what I want to do is I want to ask the LLM to implement one of these acceptance criteria. So this one right here, we'll start with AC05. And first of all, I'm going to do this without using any skills. So you'll see up here, nothing up my sleeve. My Claude folder is empty. I don't have a .cursor folder at all. So no skills. And then here, I'm going to say, write a failing unit test. It should be able to figure out rate versus right. For AC05 based on at user story 001 venue management. Okay, so what have we given it? We've given it a specific task to perform, write a failing unit test, and we've given it some context. This is the venue management context. So we've drawn two two targets. One of those targets is based on, hey, this is what we're trying to build. The other one is the huge target of failing unit tests. If I just said write a failing unit test, well, okay, you want a failing unit test, throw a dart, I'll make something up and I'll write a unit test. Oh, for this one, that intersection, let's go. So we're going to ask Cursor to write that failing unit test. And remember, we don't have any skills, so it's going to do the best it can with the average, with how it learned people write failing unit tests. And so, it looks around the room. It sees, oh, okay, we've got an API, we've got some an application factory. It uses a shared factory per class. Okay, that might come in handy when writing a unit test and creating the system under test. Yeah, this is on auto, so it should be the lightweight models. Okay, there we go. So now we can pop open file. We can see what files it's working on. So we've got our venues controller tests. Kind of open that up. We can see, okay, it's bringing in entity framework here. Okay, there's our brand new test. Yeah, and it's still looking through things to make sure that it doesn't need to do any more, but let's start taking a look at what it built. Okay, so we've got a unit test for list venues returns 200K with all venues. So that matches this scenario. So given 3 venues exist, when I submit get to API venues, then I get a 200 OK. Well, here's my 3 venues. So I create my scope and I go ahead and add those to the venues and I save changes. Okay. Looks like a perfectly fine unit test. It sets it up, it executes it, and then it asserts that that it got back those 3 venues. Okay, that's fine. However, that's not the way that my team writes unit tests. This right here, creating this whole venue object when you really just need this GUID to change. You know, I really just want to see that I've added, this venue, I've added this venue, I've added this venue. I want to collapse that down into just one line at a time. So I've got an opinion on how I want to write these tests. So let me express that opinion to the AI. So to do that, let me just go ahead and undo all that. We'll see that we're back to clean. I'm going to switch to the branch that is with a skill. Okay, clear that one out. And now here I've got this skills folder and it has a skill. And this skill is all about unit testing patterns. So it expresses my opinions about how tests should be structured. We want given, when, then, how we want the test to be named. It's got some recommendations about test helpers, and these are not optional. You must do this. In fact, if you want to learn a little bit more about test helpers, then see patterns, test data helpers. That's right here, patterns, test data helpers. Here's a little description of what to do. So now you can take this new venue thing, put it inside of a given venue, and then you can use that by, well, where's the good example? Okay, right at the top. Yeah. Oh, okay. The example, I was looking for the example that actually uses, okay, this is about writing the test data helpers. But I've taken that opinion and I've put it into this skill. Now that skill is there, let me go ahead and, okay. Clear all that out. Nothing up my sleeve. So now we're going to write a failing unit test based on our user story. So same prompt as we saw before, but now it's got a skill. What's it going to do? If you'll notice, at some point, we will find, it might have scrolled past already. There's a moment when it says, oh, wait a minute, I need a skill. And it says, I'm using skill/unit testing. Okay, so now let's take a look at the file that it created. And, okay. It's still doing this. Did you use any skills in this task? I did not use any specific skills for this task. Interesting. Okay. What skills are available? Yeah, here we go. Okay, it is. Okay, there's the unit testing skill. I suspect something. I suspect that it didn't load that skill at the right time. Let me do one more thing real quick. I'm going to undo. I'm going to reload the window. Now it is refreshing everything with that skill present. Let's see if it's going to apply it this time. Come on. That's going to be at user story 001. Okay, that's still loading, but I think it's going to be able to do this. Let's see if we can catch it, determining that it needs to load the skill. Yeah, I might have started it up a little bit too early. There we go. Now it's at least got the name. That means it was able to call a model. There we go. Thought briefly, read this, used test unit testing. There we go. There's your
I'm kind of
signal that
glad that that happened because if that had happened to me, I wouldn't know what to do. So
yeah,
this helps me a lot too. So I appreciate that.
yeah, yeah. And my usual pattern of create the skill within the LLM that loads the skill immediately. So yeah, I think that was what happened when just changing branches. Okay, but yeah, you saw where it was reading that skill. I like to think about that scene from The Matrix where Trinity needs to learn how to fly a helicopter, and Neo's just asking, "Do you know how to fly that thing?" She's not yet, and then um, her operator back in the ship plugs in a cartridge, and then now she can fly the helicopter. She loaded a skill. So if we take a look here, we can see, okay, now we've got some stuff going on. Here is our new test, and look at that. Look how nice and clean that is. Okay, given a venue, here's the GUID, here's the name. The GUID and the name are the only things that are different. Everything else stays the same. So we just take all the defaults for everything else. Those are not important to this test. That was the opinion that we imposed upon the LLM by creating that skill. And in fact, it even went back to this test and it said, "Oh, that's your opinion. I'm going to go ahead and apply it to that test that was using this syntax before." So that is the difference between operating without a skill and operating with a skill. Without a skill, you just get the average, but with a skill, you express your opinion. And now I've drawn a third little target. I said, okay, I want failing unit tests that look like this. Cool. Any thoughts or questions about skills?
Where do we get templates for the skills?
Excellent question. Where do you get the templates for the skills? So you could sit there and type all this in, but don't do that because you have AI. AI is really good at creating skills. So uh, you will, in order to create a skill, what you will want to do is install a skill creator. So I've got this little command over here. I'm going to the terminal and I'm just going to type npx open skills install anthropics/skills. And so this open skills package is something that goes out to a repository like anthropics/skills, and it finds all of the skills that are in that repository. And so you can just look at all these skills that they've got published. I mean, this just goes on forever. Actually, there's only 18 of them. This is just looping. But one of them is called the skill creator. So I'm going to hit I to invert and then space to select just skill creator and enter to install. And now skill creator pops in there. So skill creator is just a skill. But what does it do? It creates new skills. So if you are working on a problem and you say, hey, I've got an opinion about that. I want to encode that. That is what the skill creator is for. So let's do something here. So we've written a failing test. So I'm just going to say make it pass, which is a terrible prompt, but it's within context. So it knows precisely what test I'm talking about. And so it already has the spec in context from here, so it knows what to do. And so it creates this venues controller, and it writes some code for us. Now I look at that, and I have some opinions. My opinion about how we should use Entity Framework is that we should separate this part, which sets up the query, so it defines an iQueryable. We should separate that from this part, the part that executes it. And so the await goes away. So I'm just going to express my opinion. In my opinion, an entity framework specification, an iQueryable, should be separate from the function that executes it. For example, the toList async. So go ahead and write those on two separate lines and use a var for the iQueryable so that we use type inference. So there's my opinion. And it's going to apply my opinion. And look, much better. So now I can tell when I'm going to await. I'm going to await right here. This part I get for free. Good, good. So now I want to make sure that it always follows that opinion when writing new link queries. So then I will say, create a skill that captures my opinion. And that's it. And so now it's going to say, hey, I've got skill creator. So I'm going to load that in. And then I'm going to create this EF iQueryable spec. What did it call it? And execution skill. Pretty long name for it, but yeah, it tells you what it does. It captures my opinion. It gives positive and negative. Yeah, avoid this, prefer that. In fact, it just took that example straight from what we just did. And now I've got a skill. And so this is checked into the code base. So everybody on my team can share this skill because as a team, we agree upon what the team norms are. And so now these encode those team norms. If I go to a team and they say, no, we like to use Entity Framework differently, we'll have that conversation. And then at the end, we will agree or disagree, and then we will commit, and we will encode whatever the team comes up with as a skill. And we'll put that into the repository. Now, this skill is not quite optimal. There are some best practices. So I'm going to pop out to a nice little website. Yeah, let me use this little browser right here. There we go. What are you doing? There we go. So there's a agent skills best practices. Here it is. Skill authoring best practices. This is in addition to the specification for what skills are and what they look like and how they are used. This gives you a whole bunch of ways to really optimize your skill. So I could read through these instructions and follow them and try to improve the skill myself, or I got an AI. Let's do this. Let me get that as markdown. I love this little convention. Just put a .md at the end. Yeah, not every website's going to do that, but this website did. And then I'll just say, hey, let me copy that URL. And then I will say, read this site and apply best practices to this skill. And so one of the things that it's going to find is this description. If you read through those best practices, the description shouldn't tell you what the skill does. It should tell you when to use it. And so it's going to read through those best practices, and then it'll say, okay, I need to make some changes. Let me think through what I need to do. All right, so let's make concise copy. Let's oh, okay, it actually deleted this skill and created another one. Okay. Separating EF query from execution. Okay. Concise naming, description, third person, what and when. So yeah, I was expecting whenever you're using link. So when refactoring code, that changed. Yeah, this one's still very specific. So over time, you'll use this skill and you'll say, hey, why didn't you use that skill on this task? And it'll say, oh, because I didn't load it. The description here says whenever I'm doing toList async or first or default async, it doesn't say anything about using, whatever count async. And say, oh, okay, well, generalize that description. And then it'll go in and it'll update the skill. And you'll iterate until the skills are used when you need them to be used and have the effect that you want them to have. So that is your responsibility to maintain the skills so that the skills can write the software that you want.
I have a quick question.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so let's say I go to GitHub and I go to your repo and I grab the latest skill that you have publicly available and I go and load it and I'm running with it for a while and you put out an update.
Mm-hmm.
Do I need to reload that skill to get that latest update?
Nope, you just need to do npx open skills update. And then it will find all of the skills that it had installed, and it will look for fresh updates.
Nice,
So,
nice.
yeah, I found Skill Creator. And it does that because of this magic little openskills.json right here. So it says, yeah, that's where I got it. Got it off of GitHub. And that was the last date I checked. So check for a commit since then. It's like we planned that question, but we didn't.
All right.
So,
Another question that
yeah.
just came in is, have you used APM?
APM. I'm not ringing a bell. What APM are we talking about?
We'll see if Eric can expound on that here in just a second. Or Eric, you're welcome to come off mute. Microsoft's Agent Package Manager.
Oh, no, I haven't. I haven't. Let's learn something together here. To do Agent Package Manager. What does this do? Uh-huh. So you can package standards, prompts, skills, plugins. There we go. Yep, that looks like a that looks like a framework around this idea.
So
I like
Eric
it.
just basically added one more thing to the list of for the rest of us to go and learn and add on.
Uh-huh. Yeah,
That's
and now the
awesome.
rest of the talk is just going to be me reading this README. That is awesome. Yes, I am definitely going to check that out. Cool. Okay. So that's skills. That's the foundation of your software factory. That's how you take your team's norms and opinions and decisions and you put them into the factory. And then The next level is commands. So you want to be able to consistently apply the same steps over and over again. So for this one, I've got a really cool story about how I built a software factory for my team and my client. So we had a huge backlog of SQL scripts that we needed to write, and so for each one of them, it was when you receive this kind of event, I need you to break that data apart and put it into the tables like this. And so we had a whole bunch of these to do, and the team we'd already been working on this data warehouse for over a year, so we had a lot of these already done. And so it was a pretty routine kind of an operation by this point. And so what I did was I created this little command, write SQL script, that took that process and encoded it into Markdown. So let me show you. This isn't the exact one, of course, but let me show you what that kind of looks like. Everything goes away. We're going to go to event catalog. And then, just to be sure, I will reload window so that it picks up all of the other things around it. So you'll see there's a lot of other skills in here as well. So this set of steps that we go through every time that we need to write a SQL query. It's got some opinions about how we write common table expressions. It talks about how we're going to create a migration for the tables that we need to explode this information into. It's got information about where we list that script so that it gets run at the appropriate time. So all of those things needed to be encoded within a set of steps. And so in here, you will find under cursor, we've got commands. So here's our write SQL script command. So the user input will be one event catalog entry. To execute, you go step by step. You parse that catalog entry, look for these pieces of information, determine the script directory, so figure out where it's going to go, create each script file as defined by that catalog entry, and then make it look like this. And this is a template that was kind of extracted from this year-long worth of work, this body of work that the team had already built up. So we figured out what kind of SQL scripts worked for this data warehouse, and this was the general template that they all kind of settled on. So that's the template to use. Here are some rules, and then how to integrate it. And then there's this checklist. Make sure that you've completed all of these steps. So all of that captures a repeatable part of the process. We combine that with here in Docs. Now we have not just user stories, but also events. So in the actual client project, this is a huge, huge set of files, and they all kind of look like this. So here's our the event that we're going to be pulling in, and this is currently a perspective. It's planned, but not yet implemented. It's related to this user story. Here's what the event would look like. Here's its attributes. And then we want you to expand it into a table that looks like that. Here's the alternate key, and then the column mappings from the event to the target. So a nice description of what it is we want to accomplish.
All right, help me out 1 second. Maybe I misheard something. I know we're talking about an event, but is this a venue event, or is this a domain event of specifically around the venue created, the past tense, an action
Mhm.
has occurred.
You're absolutely right. Yes, this is a domain event that the venue has been created. And then we kind of group them into a cluster of venue events. So a venue created, updated, deleted. Um, yeah, uh, so yeah, each of the different clusters has an event type, and then you've got the event names inside. Yep. Excellent question. So yeah, you can imagine as an architect planning out your distributed system and writing all your events, um, and then working with your DBA in order to figure out what the table should look like. So the output of that planning session should be a card like this, tells you exactly what to do, and then this now becomes the user story. It's not a general user story like this with Gherkin and acceptance criteria. This one's very specific to the task that we're trying to perform, and that is to write SQL scripts. And so I put these things together, populated that event catalog, and then got my team on a call after I got them some cursor licenses, and we said, okay, David, share your screen, type this, slash write SQL script at venue event, venue created. That's it. And now we have taken that target of this is the process that we go through in order to create SQL scripts, and the other target of this is what the created venue created event looks like, and now we're throwing a target at that intersection. Along the way, you'll see some other skills here. And we've got our event catalog skill that tells us this is what an event catalog entry should look like. We've got, yeah, actually, that was the only one that we needed for this one, because all of the other information is already inside of the command here. So by doing the slash command at artifact, then we're able to produce this output. And when they saw the result pop up on the screen, as it's about to do very shortly now, they instantly recognized that, hey, this is the kind of script that we would have written. So yeah, here we've got, here's our domain object. So it's bringing that in. Okay, that needs to be part of the domain model so that we could bring that in, add that to the DB context, add that to the on-model creating, all that good stuff. And then, there we go. There's the SQL. And they say, hey, that looks just like our pattern. And I said, I know. This was trained on that work that you had already put into it. So that means when you use this command, it's going to produce the results that you would have produced. It's not the average. And it's not your job to write the script anymore. It's your job to maintain this factory, to encode this opinion inside of this command. And so then they just had to run it and test it, review it, make sure that it was right, and then create that PR. And by doing this, we were able to bring this 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 backlog of user stories. We just burned right through it. So whereas it would take about 5 days to really properly implement one of these user stories, and then we were able to do that in an average of 1 day. So it really compressed that time and kept the quality bar high. That's what I love about this stuff. This is not just generating that AI slop. This is your opinions, your idea of quality. Cool. So we created a few other commands. So write a migration. in this particular project, we weren't using Entity Framework migrations. We were using Fluent Migrator. So we had to have it write a migration. And then I started to notice that they were burning through those stories so fast that I couldn't keep up filling in that catalog. And so I created another command, write catalog entry, where I would point it to a user story, and it would pull in that user story from Azure DevOps, and it would create the catalog entry, at least a starting point. And then I could iterate back and forth and say, no, let's not use those two tables. Let's go to 3. Let's change this alternate key to that, and really, really nail it. And then I could check in that catalog entry and let my team take it from there. So that's skills, your foundation layer, and then commands that kind of encode the processes that you go through. And the key move there is /command @ artifact. So you're bringing that command and that artifact together to produce something. Okay, yeah, that's the critical path story. Okay, now agents and workflows. How are we doing on time? Let's.
It's not midnight yet. You got plenty of time.
Okay, cool. Yeah, this is really fun. So after you've got a set of skills and a set of commands, now you can perform a task. You can automate those tasks. Get them done one at a time and review the outcome. You get to a point then when you see that I've imposed enough of my opinion that the outcome is usually pretty good, and I don't have to review line by line, hitting approve on each different file and on each different line within the file. Keep that one, keep that one. Instead, I'm saying, yeah, it's usually pretty good. Let's move up one level. And now what I want to do is to create a set of agents that will execute these commands and use these skills. So what is an agent? An agent is a defined role that every time it runs, it gets a brand new context window. That's a really important part. And it's got persistent memory. So when it starts up, it reads a markdown file. It reads kind of a log of what it learned the last few times that it ran. And then when it's done, it writes back to that log. So it keeps a persistent memory of everything that it learned. For this, I am going to switch over to Claude Code. And let's go ahead and reset --hard. There we go. And now I'm going to check out agents and workflows. Okay. So Cursor has added really good support for agents since I first created this this demo, but I haven't ported my agents to Cursor yet. And basically, Claude's agent support is still the best. So so this is how you will how you'll really want to experience agents. So here are my library of agents. I've got a backend API engineer, data analytics, front end using Blazor. I've got some TDD agents. I've got a tech lead, an architect. And so each one of these has its own set of instructions, its own role, its own way of doing things, and it's got project memory. Let me go ahead and open one of these files for you so you can see what these really look like. Close all these. Collapse down. So these are all inside of the .claude folder, .claude/agents. And so each one of these is just a markdown file. So I'll go to the TDD plan strategist. So again, it's got a description that says when to use it, just like a skill does. And then it's also got access to some tools. Here I've selected a particular model that I wanted to use. So for the plan strategist, let's use Opus for a code writer, let's use Sonnet. You can make that choice. And then, yeah, we want project memory, which means that it's going to load a file right here from agent memory. So this is our TDD plan strategist. Here's its memory. You can actually peer into its memory from everything that it did before. What did it learn? And hopefully it doesn't freak these agents out when I reveal that I can see their memories, but yeah, they are just tools after all. And then the TDD plan strategist. This one is it's there to create a progression of tests. So at phase 1, it says, I'm going to establish some structure. So just write some tests that don't do anything, but for the test to pass, these things must exist. And that kind of drives the structure. Then I want my incremental behavior, so build up the happy path, one test at a time. And then let's cover the edge cases, boundaries, and error conditions. So it creates a plan of these are the tests I think we're going to need. And then it comes back to the orchestrator, and the orchestrator says, well, what agent am I going to use next? So next, I will use the test writer. And this is instructed to write one test only. Do not write implementation code. The test must fail for the right reason. So all of these are the instructions for how the TDD test writer will work. So we've got all of these agents, and then we want to make them work together. So that is where you bring in a workflow. A workflow is treated the same way as a command, but it's got a special kind of instructions. The instructions tell it to delegate to, where's my delegate to? Yeah, here we go. Here's a delegate to the TDD test writer. So you'll see a whole bunch of instructions on how to delegate to different agents. You might be looking at this, oh, what language is this? That's not Python. That's not C#. No, it's just pseudocode. I told it to write the workflow in pseudocode. And so that makes it nice and compact, and there's no ambiguity. It knows exactly what it's supposed to do. By default, it would just write it in prose. But I said, hey, write it in pseudocode, and it came up with this. And I said, yeah, that's good. That looks good. And so because of this, you are the TDD orchestrator. Your job is to delegate, to drive red-green refactor. And you will be given a requested feature. Well, how are we going to get the feature to request? Well, there's another workflow. Here's implement spec. This implement spec delegates to a different set of agents, and then it runs the TDD cycle workflow at some point, which basically means, hey, load up that file, delegate to those agents, and so on. So this one is going to be given a specification, and then it's going to figure out how to break that apart, delegate it, and make things happen. So let's do that. So we've got implement spec / implement spec. And then what's our artifact? Well, here in docs, we have user stories, or wait a minute, specs. Yeah, spec 002. So at spec 002, and that's it. /workflow at artifact. So kick off that workflow, and now it's going to read the specification, and it's going to figure out what it needs to do first.
While it's working, do we get access to this repo at some point in time?
Oh, yes. Yeah, all of this is at factoryengineering.dev is the site with all of the all of the explanation of what we're doing here. But then I've also got a GitHub repo at github.com/factory engineering. So yeah, I'll put those links in the chat.
Much appreciated. Also, I see a lot of agent calling tools, calling agents, calling this and that. A little hard to keep all of that in my mind at all times or at any times, honestly. Is there maybe some kind of high-level architecture map, mind map, or something of that sort that would tell me who calls what for what reason and why?
Not yet, but let's see what we can do. I'll switch to ask mode here in cursor and draw a mermaid diagram of the slash influence spec workflow and related agents. There we go. Yeah, that's pretty big, Eric. So yeah, you're going to input a spec. So it'll be a spec or a user story. Then is the spec valid? No. Report gaps and stop. Oh, that's an important part that I do want to cover about these agents. You'll see every single one of them has this little shape here. That's escalation. So yeah, if it's good, then go to the backend TDD. So now you're going to do the going to create a test coverage table. Let's see. Okay, this didn't actually break apart the TDD workflow. It just says do the TDD workflow. So yeah, include /TDD. But yeah, so while it's working on that, the escalation cycle is that every single one of these has a little escalation clause in it. So I'll show you what those look like inside of the markdown. But if any of the agents escalate, then the orchestrator is instructed what to do with that escalation. So I've found that when you're trying to validate something, like somebody hands you a user story and you just kind of read it through, it's like, hey, this looks good. It's not until you actually try to implement it that all of the questions come up. So, oh, wait a minute. I don't know what to do inside of this edge case. I found myself here in this if, but that's not in the user story. And so it's really at that point that you've done enough that you can escalate and say, hey, wait a minute, I need to go back. Now, if you do that on a team of humans, then people get upset, and you should have thought about that. You should have read carefully. But with a team of agents, that's just fine. One of them is working on that that new test, and they get to a point where they say, hey, wait a minute, this spec isn't clear about how this test should assert what is the expected behavior. So escalate, and the orchestrator says, oh yeah, you're right. Well, let me go back to the tech lead, to the architect, and ask the question. So yeah, so here's my TDD cycle. So this is inside of step one. That's kind of cool. So yeah, here was step one. Do this inside of here. Oh, yeah, there's the $1. Okay, yeah. And so let's see, is a refactor needed? Have we gotten refactor escalations? We actually start, I think we are still missing part of the diagram. Okay, but yeah, this diagram is not wide enough, or it's too wide. But yeah, you can see if we get to a point where somebody escalates and say, hey, this code is getting nasty, now we say, oh, we need to go into some refactor steps. So delegate to the TDD refactor agent. So yeah, if you need to explore what the workflows actually do, then yeah, ask the tool. Cool. So it has run the TDD plan strategist, and it came up with a plan. Before I answer this question, I'll hit Control O, and we can see what it came up with. So yeah, the scope must cover post validation, get 404. These are constraints. Yeah, this is the deliverable. Okay, it's not showing us what it actually came up with. Oh, that's because it's asking if it can write it to a file. Yes, please. Go ahead and write it. No, okay. So it should have written a file that we can now take a look at. So here's our, yeah, we'll be able to see it in a minute. Did it already commit something? No? Well, maybe it just created the folder. It hasn't created the file yet. But yeah, it will output a list of tests that it thinks should be executed. And then the orchestrator is just going to keep on going around and around and say, hey, write a failing test. Okay, make it pass. All right, write another failing test. Oh, that's getting too complicated. Refactor. Okay, let's come back, write another failing test until the user story is complete. So how do you suppose I came up with these agents? I think I got in here and said, okay, let's write this markdown. Nope. Nope, nope, nope. I used a command called prompt agent. And so this command writes a concise, structured agent prompt. So the user provides a brief description of the agent that they want, and then it creates this structure: the title, the role, the task, the context, the constraints, and most importantly, the escalation. So it always describes when is this agent going to raise the flag. So do not fix the problem yourself. Report what you observed, why you stopped, and recommend the orchestrator do something next. So using this this prompt, then I'm able to create an agent that does anything that I want. So yeah, here we've created a strategy. Now we've written our first test. So that probably means, okay, yeah, well, there's our tests. Okay, I thought that I saw it write the strategy to a file, but it looks like it yeah, said, okay, plan delivered. Let me read it to validate before launching phase two, and it read a file. Yeah. Yeah, we were past that one. So the control O. Okay, yeah, the control O is still going to work up here. Da-da-da. Yeah, here we go. So phase one, we've got 3 tests. So the first 2 tests force put and delete routes into existence, creating 404 defaults. So, okay, perfect. And then test 3 backfills the explicit coverage for get by GUID 404. And all 3 are near empty, returning not found. So it just told us what the test should look like in order to force the structure into being. And now phase 2, let's do some happy paths. And so then when we deliver this to the test writer, write 1 failing test. Okay, here's our scenario. Let's add that fact, that test, and then This does not yet exist in the code base, so the plan calls for this controller to be created. Constraints, write exactly one test method. Okay. Yeah, the build fails with exactly one compile error. Hey, with the expected compile error. Yeah, that's, the compiler is the first failing test, isn't it? And then the code writer, it's given that test. It says, oh, the failure mode is it doesn't compile. All right, so what do I need to do? I need to create the controller. So it forces that into existence. So yeah, that's kind of forcing it into that TDD loop. And you can see it's going back and forth, writing tests, writing code. And eventually, it's going to implement the entire specification. Yeah, eventually it'll get down to writing the Blazor front end. So after it iterates out over the back end, then it says, okay, here's the front end. Well, let's go with that. Cool. Any other thoughts? I can show you the agent writer at work. So let me hit Control N, go to a fresh new context, and slash prompt agent. And so we want, let's see what agents we don't have yet. In fact, you know what? Before I do that, I'm going to ask, I'll ask with my voice. Given what you know about this project, what agents would be most helpful? Let's get some suggestions. So it can already see Claude agents. It can see which ones we've already got. Yeah, we've got backend, we've got front end, data analytics, architect. No, it didn't quite understand what I meant. I drew far too big of a target. Yeah, so what agents would be most helpful? Here are your agents. Let me tell you the helpful ones. Now, what I meant was, what new agents should I create? Give me several suggestions. Yeah, so when I'm asking for alternatives, I usually just say several rather than giving it a specific number. Some people like to give it a specific number, but honestly, I found that when you leave it open, it never gives you too few. It's always gonna give you a lot of useful suggestions. Okay, there we go. Acceptance Test Designer. That's a good one. The API consumer. Yeah, EF core migrations, EMS agents. That's nice. So yeah, let's do the acceptance test designer. So now that all of that is in context, I can probably just do this. Let's prompt agent acceptance test designer. And it's already thought through what an acceptance test designer should be. And now it knows from that command exactly what an agent should look like. And there we go. There's my acceptance test designer. Even has the escalation. So in any of these scenarios, you escalate. Cool. Let me. You know
I do
what?
have another question that came in.
Oh, okay. Yeah, go ahead.
All right. Says you have a lot of human glue and coordination in here. Are you typically coordinating like this, or do you do things to automate that coordination?
Excellent question. Yes, you need to start at the lowest level. You need to observe that it produces output that you can trust. Only then can you really go up a level. So yeah, all of these human steps that you're seeing here, this is me maintaining the software factory, and then once I've got a software factory, I've got a couple of projects that I'm running with Claude in the cloud, and the software factory is already built. So I'm able to just kick off the next step from my phone and let everything just run. So check back in half an hour, see what it's done, and as the higher up you go, the more you can get done in a single prompt. But if you haven't built the structure to really trust the output, then you might create a huge mess in a single prompt.
All right. So
Excellent question.
yeah, and then that makes sense, right? Is you got to start someplace, and it kind of leads me to like some of the AI stuff that I've done with Claude is I will start down a path and then in my prompt, I ask, what else should I be asking? Right.
Mm-hmm.
And it gives me some ideas that I didn't think about that are contextually relevant. So I can have some place to start. And with code, I can see, right, is what's some good ways to test this, or what are good tests? What are bad tests? What are or good tests to test in really odd ways, right? That kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And Brian's got a question. Do you pick some or all of this up and bring it to the next project, or do you
Mm.
start from some base level?
Yeah, there are very few skills that I bring from project to project, and almost no commands, agents, or workflows. Um, so these TDD agents are a counterexample in that I have found these to be somewhat portable, but every agent or every project is different, and so this one is a Blazor project. So I created a Blazor front end agent, um, and then the skills. Yeah, I've got a skill that describes how I like um, the Blazor to be organized using atomic design. Um, and event catalog, that only makes sense in this project. This is a very specific kind of skill. So a lot of these are very specific to the project, and so I don't bring them from one to the next. But this is the process of creating an agent, so uh, it's not a difficult or time consuming process. You just and then you want to iterate on it with this project to make sure that it's going to work. Yeah, there are some that are quite portable, like this Mermaid ERD. This is another thing that agents can have is they can have scripts. So um, so with this one, yeah, I iterated with the LLM in order to create some mermaid diagrams, and um, and found that it needed to write some really complex commands in order to execute something. And said, yeah, just create a script or create a skill, and then create scripts inside of that skill. And then it was able to create a script anytime it needed it, and now it could reuse that. So this one, this Mermaid ERD, I have found to be quite portable. I do use Mermaid on a lot of things. So yeah, it all kind of depends. There are really just a few that I install from elsewhere. So we've got the skill creator skill, but then I've also created a skill optimizer skill, which basically tells it to go out and apply the best practices. So here's the reference to best practices. And yeah, this is the best practices that came from the open skills best practices markdown file that we just looked at. So that one I've actually put onto factory engineering, and I use npx open skills to install that one. So I can bring that from place to place. So a few are portable. Most are the software factory that you are in charge of maintaining. It's still going through that TDD cycle. TDD does take a while. While it's doing that, I do want to demonstrate precisely what you do with this agent prompt. So I'm going to come over here and I will need to do another Ubuntu window. There we go. Okay, so this one is in projects. I think, let's see. Oh, factory engineering. And then this is the demo. Yep. So start another instance of Claude right here. So yeah, because I've got two windows that are both looking at the same repository, they will try to write to the same file system. So you would definitely want to use work trees if you were trying to do two things that might collide. But that would be a different demo. For this, I know that I'm just going to be creating an agent, so that's in a different part of the code base. I feel pretty confident doing this. So /agents. So we come back to here where we were able to list all of our agents in the library. But now I want to create a new agent. So let's create it within the project. There's also personal agents, which you can see it's at the tilde, so it's at your home directory. That means you have access to those agents no matter what project you're in. But this is a very agent-specific project, or project-specific agent. So I want it to evolve with this project and understand how this project works, and I want everybody on my team to have access to it. So I'll put it in the project so it's part of the code base. Then generate with Claude. You should never do manual. Why would you? And then paste. So there's that agent prompt that we came up with, and then submit, and it's going to generate that agent MD file. It's actually going to expand upon that prompt and make sure that it works the Claude way. And then it's going to ask me a few more questions, like, well, it's going to ask me what tools it should use. It's going to ask me what color to use. So notice here I've got red and green for test and code. Yeah, so I was, yeah, there we go. So to piggyback on Sean's comment about asking which additional prompts should be added, I go to the additional step after almost every session. I ask the CI these questions. What went well? What could I improve? And any additional takeaways or things to study? I love that. Have a little retrospective. That is so cool. Yeah, so this one, we don't want it to have execution or MCP or any of the other tools. It should just be able to read and edit files. So, and then we'll continue. And for this one, so this is the test engineer. I think we do want to pop this up to Opus for this one. And then the test engineer shall be orange. And put this in. Okay, and now agent memory. So this is the really important part. So where do you want it to store its memories? I always say to store the memories in the project scope, because you learned something about working on this project. I want to keep it with this project. So that's what it came up with. I can view it or just enter to save. And now I've got my acceptance test designer right there. And I could even come back here and take a look at the acceptance test designer and see what that came up with. So yeah, you can read through the agent, make sure it describes exactly the processes you. But the most important thing is to run the agent and see if it does what you want it to do. Okay, it might not be getting through the TTD cycle anytime soon. It's already been working for 21 minutes. It's a good thing I'm on the max plan. I would have already been hitting my session limit right now. That is the other thing. As you go up the levels, you're going to find that you are using more tokens per prompt because you're getting a lot more done. And so you'll find that at some point the the $20 a month subscription is not going to be quite enough. So you will have to bump that up. But once you're at that level, you will also see that the amount of productivity that extra money gets you is well worth it.
I definitely like how I can start with Claude, for example, and there's other ones that do it. Here's my goal. Here's my context. Here's some information about it. This is my constraints. This is my goals. This is what I really need to try to get out of this. And then ask Claude or AI, just go, should I be creating XYZ? Or is it going to be something else? Or is it a mixture of both? Right. So I have an idea. Here's what I want it to do. Should this be a skill? Should this be a command,
Mm-hmm.
right? Or should I plug
Yeah.
in or something to that effect, right? And have it help guide me on how to do what I'm really trying to get after. And
Mm-hmm.
and I'll tell you right quick is the first time I used Squad, for example, with GitHub Copilot CLI, um, I I took a document that my boss wrote. It's in Markdown. Took it and I said, using that file as a template, not the contents, but just as a template. Now I want you to go and do this research on these products, etc. And that thing did a week's worth of work, if not
Mm-hmm.
more, in 40 minutes
Yeah.
and spit out a gigantic document that was in the same format template as what my boss's was. So kind of meeting some minimums in a sense.
Uh-huh.
And that expedited so much of my work in that regard. And I spent a couple of hours reviewing it so that I can still make the document be more contextually accurate to what I need for the job fit. And, I don't care saying it was AI generated, but I can still say it was tweaked for exactly what we need instead of
Mm-hmm.
spending another 40 minutes for it to go recreate things. So, and I learned a lot in the research it did. It became a gigantic research assistant and helped me a ton.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think we're going to quickly get to the point where it's okay. We don't have to say, hey, you know what? I used AI to do this. Let me apologize. It's like, no, it's a tool. Everybody's using it. It's fine.
Yeah, and I've told coworkers, and I'll stand by this with anybody. You're responsible for the input, so don't let intellectual property get out. And you're responsible for its output. If you take what it spits out and you use it in production code, for example, then you're responsible, not AI.
Right.
So learn what it spit out, learn what it created, and if it's better than what you would have done, learn from it. Great, right? And there's always something to learn. So that's where I see the biggest use of it is helping us as an assistant to grow so much more.
You want to start a
Indeed.
fight, go to Reddit and post something about I built this with AI and put all these details about all your experience first. Nobody's going to see that. All they're going to see is built with AI. Oh, you moron. But with
Well,
Copilot, the $20 doesn't last long. I had 45 minutes after, or about 30 minutes, 45 minutes after I had got out of the context ban. I got about 45 minutes worth of stuff done before I hit another 4.5 hour timeout with the new token limits.
yeah. Um, I hear you. I hear you. Uh, it's getting to where even the $20 a month is not going to be quite enough. So yeah, you have to define your own budget. How much are you willing to spend? But then invest in your career. Invest your time. Invest your treasure. Uh, this is yeah. You aren't going to be able to get to the point where you're creating your own entire software factories if you're not getting to the max level for Cloud Code, for example. So $100 a month, and then this becomes possible. If you then start using it so much that you start to hit those limits at the $100 level, then you're probably getting enough value to bump it up to the $200 level. So yeah, it's not cheap, but the value is there. So it's a real investment. Yeah, Sean, you were talking about creating documents. This right here, this docx skill, Anthropics /skills, is it's got some scripts in there that will generate Word documents. So combine that with like the PDF skill, so you can turn those into PDFs, and with the Canvas design, and maybe even the theme factory, and now you're able to have it capture a color theme that represents your brand, and then turn that into a document template. With Canvas design, then it's able to really take that gestalt of how people think about where things are on a page, and it applies that kind of reasoning, and then you'll get some really beautiful documents out of that machine.
It's funny you mentioned that too. As far as creating Word documents, there was times when I forgot to mention that my output needs to be Markdown, and by default, it ran and created JavaScript code that it then in turn ran to create the Word documents. I'm like, okay, I didn't know JavaScript was that powerful, but okay, cool.
Yeah, JavaScript can do anything.
Apparently. So I quickly had to stop it or just start again and say, no, I'm sorry. The output needs to be marked down or something.
Sean, something along with some of the warnings that you've given this evening, one of the biggest ones I tell my team at BOK is to be very careful because, and it doesn't matter if you're using Copilot, Grok, or ChatGPT, they're all the same in this regard. They will never, ever, in my experience, say, I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
They'll try to make sense out of the prompt, and they'll spit something out. And it's our responsibility to make sure that it's what we need. And I've seen you junior developers really get themselves in a bind by taking that code and putting it in a repo.
Well, it's the
system prompt.
Oh, please, Carl.
Hi, can you add to the system prompt to tell it never to say I don't know when it isn't clear on something, and give it a threshold? 95%, 90%. You tried that?
You can, and something that I though have done in that regard is say include the sources of your getting your information. I have even gone back to something that it output, and I said, okay, now tell me the sources of this information. It actually went back, found the sources, and then says, okay, I'm sorry, here's what I got wrong, and here's what I got right. And actually corrected itself when I said, no, go find the sources on this. Go cite your sources. So there's tricks to it.
It's interesting. Just about 2 weeks ago, I was having a one-on-one with one of our senior vice presidents, my director, and he's a big proponent of using AI for code with the obvious cautions working for a bank. But I told him, I said, it's interesting that how many times I catch Copilot and it's wrong. And it was funny that when you work with a person, you're doing paired programming, you say, hey, that's not going to fly. That's not. We tend to defend it. And AI just goes, oh, you're right. and you just go on.
Uh-huh.
And I'm evolving that. If you'll allow me to call it relationship, because in my mind, that's what it is, that this relationship is evolving where I no longer feel the need to be super polite or worry about feelings. It's just an old reaction. I'm 73 years old, and that's how I was raised. But
You're
now
right,
I'm like,
Bill.
hey, do what?
You're right, Bill. Yes, you're right. Absolutely. You're right.
That was absolutely brilliant.
That is brilliant, Bill.
Sean, Yeah, I got to be careful with you because we got tickets to go see a concert next Sunday. I don't want to rock the boat.
Tommy Emmanuel.
Man, am I looking forward to that. I've been a fan of him for so many years.
Yeah, I really wish I could use AI to help learn guitar and
Mm,
certainly be as well as, I mean, even as well as Bill is on guitar. I'd be happy with that, let
Thank
alone
you.
Tommy Emmanuel, who's just an
Yeah.
absolutely amazing guitarist.
Thank you for that compliment. For
Absolutely.
the record, I use AI for my music, and I have a paid account with Grok for that because it's more real time and get more up to date information than I can with Copilot. At the company, we have Teams GPT, uh, OpenAI, Chat GPT, and Copilot, and they're phasing out the GPT stuff in favor of Copilot. But I've still got Grok at home and GitHub Copilot here, so I'm almost AI poor at this point. But there's so many different things. A good example. I don't know if anybody else has been in this business long enough to feel burnout, but I've got
mm,
30 plus years as a software engineer, and I retired. I came out of retirement, made a lateral move to become a technical analyst, and now I'm kind of burning out in that. I felt like, and so I actually asked Copilot about that today, and it was interesting how it became kind of a counseling session. And I was at the point I told the same director in the one-on-one I'd probably retire here in a couple months. And what the co-pilot figured out from that discussion was that I'm not burned out. I'm at the beginning stages of burnout, and there actually are a number of things I really still enjoy about my work, and I'm still passionate about. But there's two fairly minor things that are just constantly recurring, and they're in agitation. And once that was identified, I thought these are both things I can negotiate, or I can write code to work around it,
hmm
cause it not to happen anymore. There's a number of ways to solve those issues. So it's funny that uh, for the longest time I've been going in. I even told Sean a while back. I said, "Man, I'm just totally burned out." And I came home from work and a lot more energetic and a lot better attitude today from that session. So I'm increasingly, and you guys are probably the same. I'm probably preaching to the choir, but it seemed like about at
Well,
least once a week I find a new use for one of these AI platforms. It's just
hmm
amazing.
so Bill, you bring up something it's a really good point, is you can leverage, and I mentioned this to my wife, as far as, for example, with and to my daughter as well, who's now moved out in her apartment, is um, go if you are tired of some recipes,
Yeah.
I have these kind of items that I really, really enjoy. Can you make some recipes for this? And then at the end, of the stuff you really like and don't like, you can say, okay, now generate me a grocery list. So now now I got my week's worth of stuff, and now I got to go and I know what to go buy. But on that, Bill, I know this from some personal history of your training, is you know really, really well how to judge the output of any AI tool, giving you some sort of, I want to say this carefully, is a therapeutic type of session where it helped identify based on what it thinks it knows over here, and what thing called the giant LLM called the internet, of what it thinks it can help you with. But you added that final touch of discernment, and that I think is an amazing experience where and Jennifer, I see your question. I'm going to ask that in just a moment. But Bill, as I think we ought to make sure that we tell a lot of either young in career or just young people in general, is to be very careful about getting advice like that, life advice,
hmm
from a tool if they don't know how to discern it. And Bill, I know you know how to discern it.
My cousin's a tool, and he's given me lots of advice
Yeah.
that I've ignored. every time.
Let me qualify that, Sean, for just a minute. I've worked as a counselor in drug and alcoholism at the hospital before, and to me, the best counselors are the ones that ask you the right questions, and you, as the patient or the client, answer those questions and answer. So you answer the questions yourself, and that's the way I set up the session with Copilot. It was like, I would say, what do I need to look at, and it would give me a criteria, and then I would put in answers, and then based on that, it would say, do you think? And it was asking. So it was, and you're absolutely right. If someone gave me, if I looked at an AI tool and took medical advice or real world advice or even career advice, I'd really take that with a grain of salt. It was more like it got me to think about, and it was asking me like, well, what do you like about your position? What do you not like? What are you passionate about? What do you kind of have a so attitude, and the questions coalesced into something that really made sense. And it wasn't too time consuming. It was probably less than 30 minutes, but it was interesting that it was a real fresh perspective for me. But yeah, thank you for pointing that out. And I forget there's a lot more people on this call than just the four little windows I'm looking at right here. And I could have somebody in here right out of high school that, oh wow, I'm going to ask for what career do I need to do?
Yeah, you just get a bunch of self-affirmation. It's like, you're the best person. You should really go out and follow that dream of robbing a bank.
And
Is it
but
okay
I'm
if I-
I'm running into the same ethical questions with songwriting using AI as you do with writing code with AI. So a lot of songwriters have real strong feelings about that.
I draw a line between art and science. I'm happy to write code, but songwriting, no. I'm in a band, and I always say at the beginning of our performances, this performance will have no AI, and everybody goes crazy. I mean, I think the backlash against music generated by AI is real, and I think it's pushing people towards wanting to go see real musicians, which I think is a good.
That's a great point. I didn't know you're in a band. Thanks for sharing that. But for me, it's just a tool for when I'm songwriting and I can't think of a word that rhymes with this, or I can't think of a sentence that has the same meter as this one. I might ask for some suggestions. And it seemed like no matter how many times I've done it, no matter how bright or how good AI has improved, I never am happy with what it gives me. So it winds up being, I write it anyway, but it'll get my mind thinking. It's just a tool for.
That's a good use.
But yeah, I'm like, and I sing all my own songs. I play all my own. Sean will vouch for me.
Oh yeah,
no, I
absolutely.
believe it. I see the pictures on the wall there, bud.
Do what?
I see the pictures on the wall.
Oh yeah, I forgot they were behind me.
Jennifer has been waiting patiently for this question. This is for Michael. And when do you determine that a workflow with agents is required? For example, when you do something over and over again, it can become a skill. What makes you decide an agent will make things better?
Yeah. It's really the idea that agents have their own context window. So if you're in one session and you complete a task and you can see the little wheel filling up, once that wheel gets too close to the middle, it's probably time to start another session. So if you find that the work that you're doing is filling up that wheel, then it's really good idea to split that apart and to see if maybe you can do part of it here and then take some of that output and do part of it there. And that's what agents really do really well. So yeah, you just kind of get a feel for how much work is too much work. To be quite honest, this demo here of write a failing test and make it pass, that's probably too small for an agent, if I'm being quite honest. It's just really fun to see it do TDD like that. But yeah, work on the front end and work on the back end. Yeah, those are for 2 different agents, or maybe even write a suite of unit tests and then write the back end. So yeah, it's really, I think, based on context. But yeah,
there's something I would add to that, which is like don't just wait for the wheel to fill up. Like if you're doing something that's discrete and different, don't just continue using the same session. Start a new session, because what's happening is that window of your context is getting passed in with every request. And so if you are letting that flow over, you're doing 2 things. One, you're consuming tokens that you don't need to be consuming. And as we go forward and we start paying for tokens, that's going to matter. But 2, you're just adding junk to the context window that's irrelevant. So if you have discrete things going on, don't just continue using that session, spin up a new session. But that wheel that fills up as well, if you are still working in the same session, you'll notice occasionally in your windows, you'll see a message that says like compacting context or something like that. And so that's exactly what it's doing. It's trying to summarize what's already in there and compact it so that it doesn't overflow the context window. So
yeah, and another great tip is just ask the LLM to take a look at the project and come up with a set of agents that would be helpful. It'll come up with too many, but yeah, then you can say, yeah, that acceptance test engineer, or the acceptance test designer, that's a good one.
You made a short comment there that I'd like to hop on, because we sort of go over it real quick. You get too many of them. And that seems to be a common thread. If I write sort of a generic prompt, I always get back way more than I needed. And just anybody starting out in this, if you're new, that I think you're going to see that.
Yeah, that is very true. Yeah, and don't go to the next level until you're starting to see good results out of the level you're at right now. So start creating a whole bunch of skills. And then once you see that you're getting good results out of those skills, then take it up to just commands. Just now I'm going to do a set of tasks. And then you'll see, okay, I can get that set of tasks done pretty reliably within one context window without filling up the wheel. And now, okay, let's turn that into one agent. So now I can put a bunch of agents together and have them each do a separate set of tasks.
Okay, thank you.
I'll tell you something that I was fighting with is when I was creating my first skill is, yeah, but somebody's already done it. Why would I create one if somebody else has already done it? And well, one, you do it because the same reason that when early coding is you created yet another CD organizer, something to keep track of your CD albums, right? And it's not because somebody else has done it, it's because you haven't. And so when you make a skill, go make one because you haven't made one yet. And then the challenge is, all right, well now, and I really like what you were saying, Michael, earlier in this is, and by the way, I've seen many positive comments that it's really helped them understand a lot of the more of the behind the scenes things. Is if I find myself doing something repetitive, make that a skill so I can stop having to repeat myself. And that is to me, that's like one of the biggest helpers.
Yeah. That's really unlocked things for me. And I think that's what the AI first mindset is. And, I hear people say, oh, if AI is first, that means people are second. No, what that means is that when you think about performing a task, think first about, can I use AI to make this task easier? And so, yeah, you perform a task. Hey, that was repetitive. I've done that before. Now, right there in that session, hey, can you create a skill that captures my opinions about what we just did? And then, boom, you've got your first skill. And I would say not only is it important to write a skill because you haven't done it yet, even if somebody else has. It's also important for you to write that skill because that was their skill. That was their opinion. You have your opinion, and your opinions are there for a reason. They matter. You have those opinions because you found that following those opinions leads to better outcomes. And so capture those opinions, write those skills that only you would write.
And be sure to keep track of it in your own GitHub repository. Even if it's a private repo, keep track of it so you don't lose all that good effort.
Yeah. Yeah. Like I said, I like to keep them within the project that they were born in. Only a few of them have made it outside of those projects. So let me show you factoryengineering.dev. So this is the site that I put together that basically captures what it is we just talked about here. Why what are skills? Why are they important? What are commands, agents, workflows? And so with this, I've got the github.com/factoryengineering. That set of repos. I need to update that user or that front page, but there's the website. So if you wanted to actually contribute to the website, if there's something wrong on the website, hey, send me a PR here. But here's the demo that we just went through. So all of that is right there. And then this is a set of skills that I've published specifically for performing factory engineering. And so far, there's just a couple of them. The skill optimizer we talked about applies those best practices to a skill. But then this factory engineering skill, it organizes your skills folders so that and your commands folders so that you can move your skills and commands from one tool to the next. So useful stuff when doing factory engineering. But as you develop skills and you find that, hey, this is an important one for me to take from one project to another, then create another repository that just has a skills folder in it. And then just copy those skills folders into that one top level folder. And then you'll be able to use npx open skills to install your skills into your next project.
Yeah, that's super helpful. Another question came up is, what are the best ways to keep the LLM from coming up with too many recommendations, making your projects 15 times bigger than originally intended?
Yeah. When I ask the LLM for recommendations, it's during that phase that I'm just kind of brainstorming and I'm looking at the list of recommendations, and then I will ask it to act upon just a small subset of them. So like in this example here, where I asked it for several suggestions for agents, I said, okay, that one's useful. I'll take that one, and then through my own discernment, I just said no. These have less value. Yeah, the same thing with user stories. It's like, okay, here's a complete user journey. Let's see if we can break it into user stories. And then it comes up with a whole bunch. And I'm like, okay, let's document that first one. Okay, we read through the document. Let's document that second one. All right, let's stop there. So yeah, when we there's kind of a difference between this kind of interaction where you're asking for suggestions and you're exploring a concept, and this kind of interaction where you're putting it to work and it's just working through them. If you actually had an agent that would write user stories, then it might just go off the rails and write a whole bunch of user stories if you put that inside of a workflow. So I prefer not to do that, and instead, those parts of the system where I'm trying to apply my discernment and really think through what should be in and what should be out, I'll be more interactive.
Something I've heard some time ago is it's best to start out with, say, give me 10 examples of, or 20. Give it a range. Don't say 100. It could be too big. Now, granted, that was like a year ago. So the AI power is a little different these days, but I can see the concept of, give me 15 suggestions of X instead of, open-ended.
Hmm. Yeah, I have found that if I leave it open-ended, give me several suggestions, um, I get back a um, I get back more than I really want. However, um, if I give it a number, it might it might miss things that it really should be giving me back. If I said, give me three suggestions, then I will faithfully get three agents, and I might look at them and say, yeah, I'll take all three of them. But what did I miss? So,
Yeah, I could see like, give me 12 and then I narrow down to the three, right?
yeah.
Instead of it, because to your analogy with the darts is assuming or asking for three is a really tight ask
Hmm.
versus give me 12, then I'll use my own discernment and judgment on that I can't even convey just yet on picking those three.
Hmm.
I have a third alternative I've been using where I'll let it go ahead and give me back, not an unlimited number, but let it whatever the default is, and it's always way more than I need. But then I'll say, now out of that list, given this criteria, and I build a filter prompt and I say, give me the 10 best and that meet that criteria. And I found that kind of works for me. So not always, but I also have the original list to go back and look at if I feel like I'm still missing something. But I found pretty consistent. I use I'm using the Copilot with well, you guys just mentioned it earlier. Anyway, it's the same stuff you're using, and it seems to be working pretty good for me. Claude, that's what I was trying to say.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I have a story, a real world story with a customer using AI. If you give me 5 minutes,
Hmm.
okay.
Your microphone is a little low though.
All right, how's that?
Getting better.
Let me. Uh, well, okay. How about that? Is that okay?
That's good. Yeah.
All right. So I have a customer who I did a Blazer app for 5, 6, 7, 8 years ago, whatever, when it came out. And occasionally he asked me to do side projects. And this one, I had some downtime and I said, hey, I got a few months. What do you got? And he says, well, I want to do this, business rule validation system. I don't have to explain it. I think you guys know what that could be. I mean, it's pretty self-explanatory. So he had a conversation with ChatGPT, who kind of came up with a kind of a plan. And at the end of the conversation, he basically sent me that whole conversation. I took that and put it into Squad, which I'm a huge fan of. GitHub Copilot CLI with Squad. And I said, hey, literally, my customer has this idea for a project. Can you take these notes conversation that he had with ChatGPT and formulate a plan to develop this thing in multiple phases and tell me what the phases would be and why they're important, and create a customer facing document, not a developer document. He is a developer, but a customer facing document that explains these phases and why they're important and what they do. And it did. And I was like, great. So I sent it to him. He says, hey, why don't we have your AI talk to my AI and we'll just retire? So he was cool with the whole idea of me using Squad. And I basically took it at a very measured pace, right? We started with the core classes and stuff, and we got down to the nitty gritty in every phase. In every phase, I had it output a customer facing document that explained everything. And a couple of times I was like, and explained something. Oh, the first time with the phases, I was like, phase 4, I really don't understand why this is a thing. Can you give me a real world example as to what it's for and why it would help and what the problem scope is? And it did. It was really great. But you have to read, you have to read the output of the AI to understand, first of all, what it's doing, and try to figure, and if you need to figure out how to correct the course. And I've done that a couple of times. It had a couple of phases in the wrong order. And I said, doesn't it make sense to do this before we do that, so we're not having to build a whole bunch of test things? And he's like, yeah, you're right. You're absolutely right.
You're absolutely right.
But so I basically finished the last phase tonight, and it's only been 3 weeks, right? And this is something that would have taken me months. And after that, I said, okay, can you think of any, it wasn't tonight, but it was a couple of days ago. Can you think of any improvements that we could do to this to this thing? And I came up with a whole bunch. It was like 7 or 8. And I said, yeah, that's great. So we implemented them one by one, every single one. I tested, I did a commit on that particular feature, right? So I'm not like just accepting a bunch of stuff every single time. I'm testing it, making sure it works. And then at the very end of that, I said, okay, so there's got to be some bugs here. Can you have the squad scan for bugs and things that could be improved or fixed, right? Came up with 12 items, including, this exception was swallowed. A couple of exceptions were swallowed. They need to be bubbled up to, let's see, the API controller didn't have any security on it. That's okay. We can wait on that one. To, just a bunch of really cool things. And I went through them tonight, every one by one. So you have to be on these guys like they're your team. You can't just trust what they throw at you. You have to test it and question it and get the right answers back. So it was a huge success story. It's amazing what this thing came up with, but it wasn't just a one day do this. It was a process that took a few weeks.
I've told my coworkers I compare it to paired programming with a junior developer that has a genius level IQ.
Right. Huh. Yeah, that's right.
There we go. We got an app.
You're right.
Enter forgery token. Oh, interesting. Yeah, this is a really cool thing to do with it. I'm going to go ahead and clear the context. Put it in a loop. Have it close the loop, so it should be able to see what it just produced. So I want you to do test the application that is currently running. Well, let me make sure that it's still actually running. Because I did clear it, so yeah. Okay. Yeah, it's got stuff in there. Running at localhost. There we go. So now I've got the Claude Chrome plugin installed. And so it should be able to. Okay, it's going to use Playwright. Playwright's fine. So yeah, it's going to start driving the application. It popped up over here with Playwright. Oh, I think I've got Playwright running inside a Docker, so that's not going to work anyway. But yeah, if you put it in a loop and now it can see what it generated, then it says, "Oh, I found a problem. Let me go back and fix it." And then it can see it again, fix it. So that's a great way to get yourself out of the loop and let it go. So how about I say no? Use the Chrome plugin or Claude. See if we can. Got it. I use Playwright Chrome to. Okay, this might not work on this machine. I mostly do this on the Mac. Okay, but there is one more factory engineering thing that I think would be quite helpful. So yeah, you can go chook, and that is slash run retro. What's this all about? Here I've got a script or a command called run retro. And this runs a retrospective based on your agent memory. So here it's reading all of the, well, it's reading all of the code base. Okay. Oh, yeah. Here's it recalled some memories. So it read through all of these agent memory files. So remember when you set up the agents, always give them a memory so it keeps a log of what it learned. So in here, we've got different things that it learned while working on this task. And so a retrospective basically means mine that memory for things that would be really helpful to move into the agent definition or move into Claude.md or agents.md. So yeah, that's one of those techniques that I like to use in order to keep the keep the factory well maintained. Okay, look, we found some stale facts. So the events controller test clears the database in the constructor. Well, that's stale. It doesn't do that anymore because we've moved on from that state. Okay, EF core in memory and case sensitive storing section are framed as on Mac OS .NET 10, but this project is on Linux now. Okay, yeah. EF behaves the same no matter what OS it's on. So now it recommends. So these are cross-agent inconsistencies. So one agent says this and another agent says that. Lessons to promote. So these should be, this is a hard won SSR gotcha. I should promote this to the agent definition. Yeah, skills and workflows misalignment. It says that the runner test, .NET test, specify test, CS project filter, blah, 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 uses a relative path. But here it says use the absolute path. Both work, but that diverge. So yeah, I want it to always use the absolute path. Or use the relative path. The relative path. Apply your recommendations. So now it's going to go through and it's going to update the agent files, and it's going to remove things from memory that are stale and have been elevated. So yeah, make this part of your regular workflow as well. That's letting the factory maintain the factory.
Nice.
Cool. Okay, we should probably go ahead and round this out so that we can get to our after party. All right, so we saw the TDD workflow in action. Yeah, IDE support for agents and workflows. This started out as just 2 green checkboxes, but now GitHub Copilot is in there, cursor's in there. Windsurf, come on, Windsurf, you can catch up. You can do agents. I believe in you. So the idea is you engineer it. You start with your task, you do it once, get the output right, and then ask the LLM to put that into a skill, put that into a command. Once you've got those built up and you know that when I apply these commands and these skills, then I'm going to get good output, then you say, all right, let's create an agent that does that. Then create a few agents that all work together, and then write a workflow that goes over them. And each time, it's not you actually typing it in, it's you telling the LLM that you want to go through this process, and then tell it to write that workflow. But the big point here is that you engineer it. So I don't want you to install SpecKit or OpenSpec or BMAD. I want you to create your own software factory, because this is ultimately your responsibility. It's also your opportunity. Yes.
Real quick, on factorengineering.dev, if you click the get started, it's a 404.
Oh no.
Top right. Yeah.
Oh, like a big old call to action button? Yeah.
Yeah.
Nice.
Wow. That's pretty bad.
Of course, I would find it just trying to do stuff, use things. That's how I find all the bugs that I find. I'm like, how did you manage to do that? I used it. Did you not use it when you were testing? Kind of deal.
I was like, yeah, call to action button looks good. Let me look at these things. Okay, blah blah blah. Oh, I should have probably clicked the call to action button. Hey, the light mode, dark mode switch works.
So we got that going for me.
Yeah.
I'm glad you got that defaulted to dark mode too.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, that is kind of funny. I have OpenClaw reviewing this site. So daily it comes in here and it looks to see, is there any news that I need to report here? I even have a factory for creating these articles. So it has a kind of a direction that we iterated and said, okay, we want to take it in this direction. And so every time I've got a new article up here, it says, oh, okay, time to propose the next article. Let's go over to GitHub and create an issue. And here's what the next article should be about. And then I say, okay, I'm going to go up to Claude and I'm going to do /write article at that issue, and it creates a pull request with the draft of the article. So then I review it and I say, yeah, okay, yeah, change this, change that, publish the article, and then it goes back through. So there's even a factory to build the Software Factory's website. And yet, even though OpenClaw is told to look for these, it failed me. Ah, well. Poor little OpenClaw.
I have a question for you, Michael.
Mm-hmm.
Great presentation, by the way.
Yeah, thank you.
Copilot, GitHub Copilot CLI recently came out with a feature where you can bring your own LLM. And that means that we can use it against Copilot running locally. I have this machine sitting next to me that I bought online, $6,000. It's got 96 gigs of RAM, 32 gigs of GPU RAM. AMD 9900, 9600. I can't remember what it is, but it's cranking, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I fire up I fire up
Copilot.
Olama,
Oh, okay.
and then hit it with Copilot. The first time I did, I typed a prompt, are you all ready to check out this project and help me with it? And then I heard this beep. And I was like, what the heck? It was my UPS. The UPS that the machine was plugged into was complaining because it couldn't deliver the power required
Wow.
for.
Dang.
I had to turn it off the UPS and plug it into the wall. But I got solar panels, so it's no big deal. Like the lights didn't dim, it was okay. But it works, and it worked really, really fast. And tomorrow on codeitwithai.com, you'll see Jeff Fritz and we do a demo of this, and it's so fast, right? I was like, I have a Blazor app, and I said, change this text to that and this text to that. It was like, boom, done. So while it doesn't work with Squad yet, we're going to talk to Brady Gaster about trying to make that happen. But I think this is where people are going, because things like GitHub is raising the price on Copilot. They're changing from a request-based billing to a token-based billing. Prices are going up. Prices are probably going to go up for all of these things, Claude and OpenAI and all these things, ChatGPT, because they're not sustainable right now, right? So I think the future lies in what I'm doing. And it's not perfect yet, but that's where I think we're going. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I absolutely think that's true. There's a really cool thing that you can do really easily with Cloud Code. And that's to create evals. So in fact, we should probably, in the after party, I'll pull up a skill and say, hey, create an eval for that. But it's basically a unit test for your skills, for your commands, for your agents, and then once you get that dialed in, so it'll optimize the prompt and you say, okay, now it's running a bit more effectively. Then you can say, okay, run that with Haiku. And then, okay, now it's failing. All right, let me optimize it. All right, now it gets it to where it runs effectively with Haiku. So yeah, I think that by creating these evals and really optimizing the factory components, we'll be able to get to the point where a lot of our agents will be able to run with just Quinn or just
and Quinn
Gamma.
Coder 30 billion is what I was using.
Yeah.
And I think in my case it's going to be skills, right?
Yeah.
Just finding the right skills so that it has and even MCPs to access the internet when it doesn't understand something. Like these are all things that are built into when you're using Claude that you don't have with Olama. But I think that's where the future is going, for economic reasons, even, for that.
Yeah. Yeah, so I think we will separate the act of building the software factory from running it, and we'll be able to optimize our software factory so that it runs completely offline. And then maybe we'll need a foundation model in order to build it and optimize it until it gets to that point where, okay, now we can run that factory component offline.
I already know somebody who's doing this. A local pharmacy. It's great. It's like a neighborhood pharmacy. This guy started a pharmacy. He's competing with CVS and Walgreens and all these people, and he's just doing it, right? And he's caught the AI bug. He's totally into it, and he's using it to write software that he can run locally, that he doesn't have to subscribe to. Like he's bypassing all the SaaS products and everything that most pharmacies use, and he's writing his own software. And he wants to run it all locally behind the firewall, inside. And he's completely addicted to it. Guy's brilliant, by the way. But no.
Yeah, that is awesome. Yeah, I think we've already seen the software as a service model is under attack. Yeah, and it's not the person that says, hey, I want to build a new CRM and offer it as a software as a service.
Yeah, of course.
It's that they're building the CRM that they want
for them.
Yeah.
Customized.
So yeah, just like I'm talking about, personalize the software factory for the project, personalize the software for the company, the individual. This technology is just like CRISPR in that CRISPR opened up the possibility of personalized medicine. a cancer drug that is just for your cancer.
Yeah.
And this is building software that is just for your business. Nobody else is going to run it. It's just yours.
What does that mean for Azure and AWS?
Yeah. I think that means I think it's a shift. I don't think it's they're going away. But I think that, well, there's I do want to do a demo once we once we crack open the I've got some prairie bomb. That's right. Got some prairie bomb I need to crack open. But so what I'm going to demo is a framework, the Janaga framework. Actually, we talked about it a little bit. That you can now give it a very short description of your project, and then Janaga will run that basically in the cloud. And so it's not that we're hosting the SaaS application in the cloud, we're hosting the infrastructure in the cloud. And the infrastructure is application agnostic, and you can deploy to it, which is already pretty close to Azure and AWS, what they already do. But you have to write code in order to deploy them right now. I think it's going to be just one level removed. Yeah, I think this is exciting. I think every time that we have taken away some level of scarcity, there's always been the fear that because now anybody can do it, then my skills are devalued. It's like I'm here creating textiles, but then all of a sudden these looms are invented, and now we can pump out a whole bunch of textiles, and so now my skills as a clothier have diminished.
I've never felt more powerful as a developer.
No, yeah. And when the loom came out, it wasn't that it wasn't that the demand for clothes was met. It's like, oh wait, no, now we can do so much more.
Clothes.
Yeah. So it's the same with
the availability. Yeah.
Yeah. And the same is going to happen with software because of personalized software. Everybody's going to want their own personal software, and they're going to be
able to charge my customer what I did for this one project again. I'll probably have to charge a fifth of that, but that's okay because it's only going to take me a couple of weeks, and I'm going to have fun directing my agents, and it's fun.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and I'll have more of those projects, I think.
Yeah, because people are going to be empowered to start the project themselves. So this client, he had that conversation with ChatGPT. Maybe he then would take that into it wasn't crew that you were talking about. It was squad. Yeah. Take that into squad and do that part himself. But then he doesn't have the expertise that you do. He doesn't have that discernment. So it's going to produce something.
It's the experience and the keen eye for architecture, and the patience actually to work through these things with the agents. That it's a different skill than development, and I don't know, man. I'm going to hand over the squad to him when I'm done. Maybe he's going to jump on it, maybe he won't. I don't know. But if it's worth more to him to pay me to do it, then great. That's fine. But I'm having so much fun. I can't tell you how much fun I'm having and how productive I've been. It's crazy.
All right, guys, we're going to wrap it up here. Thank you all for attending, and stick around if you'd like for the after party. And May 28th is our next meeting scheduled with Rocky Laka. So please be sure to check that out, and check out meetup.com. There's the tulsadevelopers.net, and as well as the .NET virtual user group. Check that out for more upcoming events. Thank you all.